If you are a regular watcher of my channel, don't worry, this is a rare, once-in-a-while video about Star Wars comic collecting. I thought it would be fun to show you some of the recent Star Wars comics I've acquired for my collection. My channel is 8 months old now, and I honestly cannot thank you enough for watching and commenting on my content. If you enjoy collecting Star Wars comics, stick around. You'll enjoy my recent pickups. There is no lore in this video, but there is information that collectors will enjoy. Number 1. Greek Black number 66. The first acquisition I wanted to show is the final issue I needed to complete the Star Wars adaptation run in the Greek anthology title Black from 1979. This has been a hole in my collection for quite some time, so I was extremely happy to find this comic earlier this year, which allowed me to complete the run. The Star Wars content is in the third series of Black, which is often referred to as the New Period. It was spread over 7 comics in this title from issue 65 through 71. 7 is a strange number, and it does make for interesting breakpoints in the story since the source material is 6 issues. These comics were also collected in albums. These albums bundle unsold copies of the books with a new cover, which is a common practice in countries outside the United States. Album number 91 contains the first 3 issues, and yes, that is Nicholas Bradford from Eight Is Enough on the cover. Album number 92 contains the next 3 issues. Album number 93, which I don't have, will contain the final issue. This was not the first time the Star Wars adaptation was released in Greece. There is a 1978 series from Cabanis Hellas, which also ran for 9 issues. I completed that collection quite a few years ago, and the publisher printed a comprehensive line of Marvel superhero comics. Collectors tend to want the Cabanis Hellas issues more because they came first and every issue has Star Wars artwork on the cover, but I found the Black issues much harder to acquire. Number 2. Canadian Bar Wars number 1. This is an indie comic I've known about for a while and really never thought I'd be able to own a copy. This issue recently came up for sale and I couldn't resist adding it to my collection. The first thing to note about this comic is it is small. It is small not only in size, but page count with just 8 pages. There are 5 issues in this series and it was published, written, and drawn by Jack Zastry. It was published under the name Grovel Comics and it is believed only 200 copies of each issue exists. The series spoofs Star Wars. There is an article which I will link to in the description which goes into detail about Jack Zastry and the group FreeKluck, which he is a member of. They are a group of musicians from Winnipeg who also created underground comics, and I found the article extremely interesting to read. I do have other indie comics in my collection, with my favorite being Starjaws from Barnstorm Comics. This title has had a successful and long run, much more than any other indie Star Wars spoof that I'm aware of. About a year ago, the creator of this title sent me a lot of information about this comic after I reached out to him, which I will share in the future. In addition to Starjaws, whenever I go to a convention, I love to find new indie creators who have created Star Wars themed books. So if you are an indie creator with such a comic, I'd love to hear from you. Number 3. United Kingdom Star Wars number 5. The UK Pence copies of Star Wars are comics that everyone knows about, and I have been slowly adding them to my collection when I find nice copies for a reasonable price. I am only missing issue number 2 now that I have acquired number 5. It isn't clear to me why these were even printed because the movie adaptation is 6 issues long, but they only ever printed 4 issues, Star Wars number 2 through 5, so they are missing the all-important beginning and ending of the story. Marvel had been printing Pence copies of Marvel Comics since their popular line of superheroes debuted in the 1960s and ended the practice in the early 1980s. A Pence copy is identical to the US copy, but the prices changed to the currency of the United Kingdom. These comics were printed on the same printing presses as their US counterparts. Sometime in the 1970s, they also began modifying the Marvel comic group masthead to read Marvel All-Color Comics instead. The Pence copies of Star Wars are not difficult to find. In February 1978, Marvel began publishing the Star Wars Weekly title. At the time, British readers were accustomed to reading their comics weekly, and after a change of editors at Marvel, it was decided to present their line of comics in this popular weekly magazine format. The Star Wars movie adaptation is spread across the first 12 issues, with half of the comic content being Star Wars and the other half being the non-Star Wars Tales of the Galaxy. In addition to the comic stories, these issues also contain articles, pin-up artwork, letter pages, and ads, all focusing on Star Wars. If there is interest, I will put together a video showing the unique content found inside these issues, because they really are a treasure trove of coolness for Star Wars fans. Number 4. German Ewoks number 1 and 2. A couple of years after Return of the Jedi came out, Star Wars merchandise began fading from store shelves. It wouldn't be until 1991 when Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy and Dark Horse Comics' Dark Empire was released before Star Wars became big again. In those dark years, there were a few attempts to keep the franchise alive, including 2 animated television series. Both Droids and Ewoks began airing on ABC on September 7, 1985. Droids only lasted for 1 season and 13 episodes, but Ewoks, which was fashioned after the popular Smurfs cartoon, saw a 2nd season and had 26 episodes total. There are Marvel series from their Star comic imprint published for both these cartoons, and like the cartoon, the Ewok series outlived the Droids title. These comics, like all the titles in the Star comic line, are aimed at young readers. The 2 German comics I picked up recently are digest-sized and contain reprints from the Star Comic Ewoks series. They are not hard to find or expensive. The most sought-after foreign Ewoks and Droids comics were printed in Spain in the anthology title My Comic from publisher Editorial Gepsa. The first 8 issues of that title contain 2 pages of Ewok comics, and the first 7 issues contain 2 pages of Droids material. I only have 3 of the 8 issues as singles, but I do have a collection which contains all 8 issues inside. Number 5. United Kingdom Dynamic Forces Star Wars Episode 1, Anakin Skywalker. When Star Wars Episode 1 was released in 1999, Dark Horse Comics was ready with an adaptation and 4 one-shots focusing on the main heroes of the film. There was one-shots for Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Queen Amidala. Dark Horse Comics did wade into variant covers, although it never reached the absurd heights that Marvel took it when they reacquired the license in 2015. For their Phantom of the Menace offerings, Dark Horse published both an art cover as well as a photo cover. Additionally, they printed exclusive editions for Dynamic Forces. Dynamic Forces is an interesting entity in the comic industry. They would pay publishers to make variant covers of their comics for them to distribute. Dynamic Forces distributed variant editions of the 4 one-shots to the United States, but they also released different variant editions that were only available in the United Kingdom. This Anakin Skywalker comic is one of those UK variants. It contains a gold foil title, where the US variant contains a hollow foil title. What makes this Anakin Skywalker comic harder to acquire than most is it is unsigned. The majority of these UK variants are signed, but apparently a few unsigned copies were also distributed, which are not easy to find. I also have an unsigned copy of the UK Qui-Gon Jinn cover, which has the glow-in-the-dark treatment. I have never seen an unsigned copy of the Obi-Wan Kenobi or Queen Amidala UK variants, but I have to believe they do exist. Well, that is it for my 5 recent acquisitions. If you picked up an interesting Star Wars comic recently, leave a comment and tell us about it. I love hearing from other collectors who are passionate about Star Wars comics. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel so I can bring you more Star Wars comic content.